Think you don't drink enough water now? Well, there's a good chance the water from your tap contains harmful chemicals. Bottoms up. A new study has revealed nearly half of US faucets likely contain so-called forever chemicals. How fun does that sound? That can lead to cancer and other health issues. That plus water doesn't even have tasty sugar in it, so it's another negative. Here's more on the study. Researchers with the US Geological Survey described the study as the first nationwide effort to test for PFAS in tap water. PFAS, I'm not sure which way you say it, I've heard it both ways, from private sources in addition to regulated ones. It builds on previous scientific findings that the chemicals are widespread, showing up in consumer products as diverse as non-stick pans, that's where we first discovered it in Teflon, food packaging, and water-resistant clothing, and making their way now into water supplies. Scientists tested for 32 PFAS compounds, most of the ones detectable through available methods, but thousands of others are believed to exist, just can't be spotted with current technology. And even just testing for 32, by the way, of the 12,000, the results were not good. They continue. The types most often found were PFBs, PFHXs, and PFOA. Also making frequent appearances was PFOs, one of the most common nationwide. These chemicals stay in the human body for years and do not degrade in the environment ever. Studies of lab animals have found potential links between PFAS chemicals and some cancers, including kidney and testicular. Ouch. Plus issues such as high blood pressure and low birth weight. It really doesn't matter whether we're talking either about large cities or small towns, private wells or public systems. The samples were taken between 2016 and 2021 in a range of locations, mostly residences, but also a few schools and offices. They include protected land such as national parks, residential and rural areas with no identified PFAS sources, and urban centers with industry or waste sites known to generate PFAS. These forever chemicals are found in varying degrees in all of what I just mentioned a moment ago. Positive samples contain as many as 9 varieties, although most were closer to 2. The median concentration was around 7 parts per trillion for all 32 PFAS types, although for PFOA and PFOS, it was about 4 parts per trillion, the limit EPA has proposed for those 2 compounds. The heaviest exposures were in cities and near potential sources of the compounds, particularly in the eastern seaboard, Great Lakes and Great Plains urban centers, and Central and Southern California. Many of the tests, mostly in rural areas, found no PFAS. I am currently in Southern California and will put my water down now. There was no difference in PFAS exposure between samples from private wells and the public supply, which was very surprising, according to Kelly Smalling, a USGS hydrologist. Public water supplies are regulated by the Environmental Protection Agency, while private wells are not. And because the USGS is a scientific research agency, the report makes no policy recommendations, but Kelly Smalling, who was Kelly Bigger before she started drinking the water, is the lead author of the study and said, the information can be used to evaluate risk of exposure and inform decisions about whether or not you want to treat your drinking water, get it tested, or get more information from your state. Here's the question, is the federal government doing anything? Back in March, the EPA proposed the first federal drinking water limits on 6 forms of PFAS out of the 12,000 and of per and polyfluorinated substances. A final decision will be made on that next year, but in some sort of good news, almost $10 billion was directed to help communities reduce PFAS and other chemical contaminants as part of the Biden administration's bipartisan infrastructure law, in hopes that hopefully you're gonna drink the water, folks. Do you hear me? That's no joke. Jink?
Yeah, so hey, a little bit of credit to the Biden administration there, and that is good that they've allocated $10 billion to it. But overall, the problem with the government is that it does very little regulation. And so And the right wing is going, oh yeah, no way, man, they do too much regulation, all those laws trying to protect our kids and the drinking water and the air. We don't need those stinking protections. If they got forever chemicals given to us by big business, we love drinking it up. Like we love the vaccines from big business, and we thought that was great, and we should inject it into our body, and then the fact that it's in our water is even more terrific because we hate regulations. Wait, what? Okay, so no, there's a reason why regulations exist. So we don't have toxic forever chemicals in our water supply. And so they've got to do a lot more to get this stuff out because apparently literally half of us are drinking that water. And we know that those chemicals are very hard to get out, and we know that they cause cancer. That seems like kind of a giant issue. There's so many tiny issues in this country that we talk about 24/7. Hey, is the Eminem cartoon character sexy enough for Tucker Carlson? That became news for like months. Oh, there's poison in the drinking water that half of us and our kids drink. Not a big deal, barely a story. No, this is exactly what living under corporate rule looks like. We covered the forever chemicals a little while ago on the show, and it turns out, of course, the companies making them, not all of them, but a lot of them, knew for a long time ago that they were toxic and that you couldn't get them out once they entered the environment. Have there been great punishments for knowingly poisoning us? No, because corporations buy all the politicians and there's never any accountability.
Well, yeah, I mean, thousands of PFAs, it's like we drinking cigarettes. And I'm up here in New Jersey, and you already know what's up with the New Jersey tap water. It smells like hose water. So, up here, and you got to think about how big of an issue it is and how much it impacts. I buy this, you know what I'm saying? How much do I spend on this a month? Quite a bit. That adds up for people, especially people who have kids or have different types of debilitating issues. We don't just drink the water, we cook with the water. We also shower with the water. We do all types of things with the water. We wash our clothing with the water. But you pointed out how really corporate America over the decades, in their attempt to be cheap and to save money, have just made all of our problems even more expensive to address. The levees in New Orleans that broke with Katrina wouldn't have broken if they would have just fixed them earlier on. It took a very long time to get lead out of many of the products. We knew that lead was poisonous for quite some time, but you got to keep the money rolling because we already got our infrastructure set up around lead. I can't remember the scientist's name who led the campaign to get that out of products. But it's human nature to be greedy and to take shortcuts. And we know time and time again that we're damaging ourselves. It's the same thing with oil. But how much more money do we have to spend now to address our infrastructure problems, whether it be the pipes or the roads or the levees? Every year, weather conditions get worse with hurricanes. Everything's on fire. Again, the people who are always talking about fiscal responsibility, now everything's more expensive. This is a problem such that next thing you know, half the population is diseased and sick, and now they can't participate in the job market. So 45% of Americans having poisonous water is a issue that literally would impact everything that we can do and participate in within society because we can't not have water.
Yeah, and I'm going to ask one last question in this case. Why are we paying for the cleanup? The companies that did the forever chemicals, they knew they were toxic and they already made the money from it. They took home billions of dollars. So why are we spending billions of dollars for the cleanup? Why don't we go get it from them? It's the cost of their product. They're saying, no, you pay the cost and I keep the profit. That's not really how capitalism works. And so what they've done is they've kidnapped the government and turned it into crony capitalism or corporatism so that we live under this corporate rule and there's nothing we can do about it. And they, in the great words of Naomi Klein, they socialize the losses and privatize the gains. And so that's where we are with Forever Chemicals too. And unfortunately, since they bought all your politicians, almost no one's gonna fight for you.
I see what you're suggesting, Cenk. You're saying that these companies that made billions of dollars by putting forever chemicals into our society, they're not the ones paying for the cleanup. So we should probably give them billions of dollars in subsidies as well to help them a little more. I think it's a great idea.
That's usually how Washington works. Okay, but again, I'll give credit to the Biden administration for at least putting $10 billion into it because we do have to clean it up. There's no question about it. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.